Call to the computer. I'm doing it now. That's great. So yeah, this whole thing you talked about cause sites. So I made a note of some of that, but this whole pelvis thing just makes so much sense. I get it completely. And could you just reiterate that, because it was just gold. It was fabulous.
Yeah, for sure. So whenever I'm looking at bodies and I'm wanting to do assessments, I always look at the foundation first, because if, let's just say you have a frozen shoulder, it's going to be the whole alignment fascially that's going to be impacted. So if it's my right shoulder, likely the left calf and foot would be the cause sites, because of the way the fascia wraps around the shin. It manipulates the ankle, it throws the ankle into a pronation, and then it draws away from the body. So then what we do with the fascia, or what we unconsciously do in response to those forces, is we anchor on the opposite side. So then we get this tension in the opposite side in the back of the body. It wraps the shoulder around and it creates that immobility in that joint. So whether we're talking about shoulders or hips, it's all the same thing. We are like a building and we're also like a river. So from a structural perspective, we want to have proper solid foundations to maintain proper cell alignment. It's when we don't have conscious posture, conscious breath, and we're also dominant on one side. Combining that with gravity over a lifetime, we literally wind down one way or another, and we'll have one side driving us. Again, if you're walking a dog who, is really well trained and you're holding on a leash and it's walking beside you, you don't feel any tugging, but you have a dog that's big and unruly and yanking you all the time. That opposite side of the body has to anchor in order to create the stability so we don't fall over. And that's what that flat tire, that driver foot, typically does to the entire body. It's kind of like we're walking around with a 20-pound weight on one side, whipping us down. But the forces aren't just linear, they're chaotic, and we spiral out of alignment. So we have all these grips that the fascia connects to anything in its path, including bone, to create that stability. So the further that we have our foundation away from correct alignment, the more of these grips that the fascia has to create. So we lose mobility and fluidity for stability. But then we become these solid frozen bodies that don't have full range of motion. And then those adhesions and scar tissue also block flow to cells, creating more of the same thing, as well as stagnancy, which creates dis-ease. So then we can attract not good things inside.
Definitely. Okay. I got loads of stuff on that. Tell me, because I haven't, you basically also said, do the first 6 days, log in, that'd be great, send some photos. Now, if someone was to do the same, can they send photos to the group there and then you make an assessment? How does that normally work?
We actually, I have 2 of my therapists that do assessments for people that want it, but I also have my community group. So anybody that gets into the membership, they're connected to me, so you can ask questions. Sometimes I'll ask for photos. I can pretty much understand just based on what people are saying, what they need. But if people want the hand holding, then I do have an assessment process, and people can, join and get an assessment. And then the photos will be sent to one of the therapists. They'll give you a personalized prescription, then the follow-up photos to compare. So that's how I do my assessment training with my teachers, is I teach them, how to look at the cause sites, prescribe the proper protocol. All of the work benefits, but we want to be most efficient. And what people tend to do when they're kind of diving in without direction is they work the pain. And if you're just working the pain, you're missing the boat, because you're not getting to the cause sites and they're at a distance from the pain site. So that's, again, where like the community group and on Facebook is really great. I've got 2 of my instructors also managing that group. So if people ask questions there, they know how to direct them properly in the membership.
What are their names as well?
Val is also one of the ones. I've got two therapists that do the assessments. Val is one and Carol is one. So Val Loridans and Carol Almanik. And in the Facebook community, Val Loridans, she's also a nurse. She manages the community along with Christine Wattis, who's been one of my very, very first teachers from years ago. Awesome. So yeah, so they've got that management. And then if you're in the membership, you also have a specific community group that I man, so that you can ask me questions. And then again, I can, give direct guidance. The nice thing about that for me is if you're in that group, I know you have the membership, and then it's easy for me to just say, okay, this is what you're dealing with. This is where you go. And people in the Facebook group can just be people that have been invited in that, you know, are just wanting to learn, that haven't committed to anything yet, or even just going through my 9-day sampler program where we just teach people using a rolled up towel, which is highly effective. I have to say, it's not like the block, but it teaches you fascia decompression. And it's like, as soon as you create that density of the towel and we show you how to do it, it's, you know, it gives you a wonderful opportunity to really get a feel for it. And for $9, it's lovely, because if people aren't really sure that they want to commit, it's a very simple way to dive in. And we've had teachers sign up from just, you know, doing our sampler program.
Oh, awesome. Okay, a couple of other questions. The blocks. I mean, I've seen yoga blocks. I've used yoga blocks, but they're two different sizes. Is this the one? So there's that first question. What's the difference between the little one and the big one? And why all the rounded things? Is it hollow? Is there something special about the block? So just give me
there's a lot of special things about it. So the shape is key, because as you are working, we work in all the parts of the body. So we're getting into the armpits, the groin, the abdomen. You know, we're not just working on the back. In fact, not hardly, but we don't even get to the back really for a while, because we age in a forward rotational direction. So if I start blocking my back and I've got a 2,000 pound per square inch force holding me in the front, and I block the back, I'm just going to kind of be irritating my back. Where if I create a release, then I can allow those cells to get drawn back to where they're supposed to go, because they get drawn away from home from that driving foot. So, so positioning is important. The shape is key, because we want to be able to get all the way to the bone, which is where the fascia will grip and adhere at the most deepest place. So the medium, we've used cedar, we've used bamboo, and I believe now you've got our new ones, because we're making them back in Winnipeg out of reclaimed elm.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah, so they're a little bit hollow, but you know, it's just a little bit of space. And this actually also is great, because it allows for the pressure gradient when we're shipping them. When we had the cedar ones, they were solid, and then they would crack in the air. They'd leave here fine, and they'd crack. So we had to come up with a way to make them so that they could withstand travel and also be the right density. But the shape is key, because again, it's comfortable in the soft parts of the body as well. When we're on things like the IT band, I mean, oh my gosh, that's probably one of the more painful things. I have like a number of classes right in the perineum, like all of these areas where, I mean, are everywhere, basically. The two sizes, we started initially with the bigger one, and that was for adults essentially, or you know, fully grown people. And then the baby at first became the one that we were going to use for kids, but that was years ago. And since then, people want both sizes. I've got a number of double blocking classes in the membership, so where you're using two at once, which is a lovely, very efficient process.
Yeah, it is too. Just I'm thinking that maybe that we might be able to just put this video up online with your permission, which I'm sure we will be able to, but so people can then follow the link from the book and go, there we are. That's cool. So
yeah.
That's so the two there.
So let me just also clarify. So also, like the baby, for example, like getting into the side waist, some people are very compressed there. They like almost have no space between the pelvis and the ribs. So that baby will feel more comfortable, where the buddy will get deeper, but it's all about creating space. So certain part, like any class, you can interchange one block for the other based on comfort. Sometimes the baby, because it has less surface area in areas like the ribs or the IT band, it's going to get deeper. So it's, you know, really about exploring your body and learning what your cells are asking for. And that's the beautiful part of this. As you keep diving in, you connect further to the deeper cells than what you're consciously aware of. And then you start to hear what those cells are saying to you. And it was Greg Braden who, in his book, The God Code, shared, now I'm not one for detail, but shared how on the surface membrane of every single cell is the message, God lives within, is basically the message. So when we're connecting more deeply to these other cells and creating space so that we can actually hear what they're saying or feel what they're saying, or whatever it is that people experience with the process, then you're more connected to yourself and your gifts and all the things that you're supposed to do here.
Yeah, that makes total sense, because what when eventually you get to read the book, this is all about the gel within the cell. and the gel within the cell has structured water. The structured water within the cell is the bit that actually connects us with Creator, God, whatever one wants to call. And so when he says that, it's true. And we now have, I suppose, I mean, it's not double-blind clinical trial research, but basically really good bona fide research to confirm that that is the case, which is great, you know.
Very
So
exciting. That is very, very exciting.
yeah, it is really good stuff. And
this is all about heating. So it's all about the process of melting. This is very slow. Every position is a minimum of 3 minutes. So we're getting pressure over time externally, combined with accessing proper diaphragmatic breathing. That's like turning on the body's furnace compared to the upper chest breath, which is like a space heater. Completely different in how it can heat and drive fluids through the body. But the key is that we create uniform temperature from core to surface, 98.6 degrees for flow. And as long as we've got the flow and we keep our cells positioned where they should be, there's optimal space. It's as soon as we start getting pulled away that the adhesions develop, and then they block the flow, and then the areas become frozen. And then there's a sluggishness, and you know, cells aren't properly fed and clean. So, you know, initially they scream with pain until eventually they're so far from where they should be that you don't even hear them anymore. And that's when the real trouble happens in health.
I would agree, totally agree. On that note, I know that I did a lot of hot yoga, and I think you may remember me mentioning this, and I loved it. I never had a problem with any of this stuff. Except this one little thing in my middle back on the right-hand side. And I just want to talk about that briefly. I know I've got to do the 6 days. That's okay. Typical man, though, will want to go straight for it. You know, this.
Oh, that gets you straight in. Trust me, you'll know right away. The first class, you'll be like, okay, I get it now.
No, that's good. Okay. And the next thing is, how long are the classes on there for?
So the first three are 20 minutes. The next 3 are 45. And then I've got 3 90-minute classes, but just do the first 6. And then once in the membership, the majority of all classes in my programs are 30 minutes plus an alignment training class. That might be 3 to 5 minutes. Okay,
perfect. So I know that whole thing has been causing me an eye problem. So this may be of interest to you. An eye problem causing me sort of minor headaches across the top, around my neck. You probably are familiar with the C1, down my arm. I know it's in my left hip, which is then obviously in my left foot. I mean, it's very cool. So I know from just my own personal body. And I will say, someone will say, well, Richard, you should have solved this. You know, you do know what you're doing. Yes. And then I've had the past 6 months, which I never, ever expected 6 months of doing citations for the book. I finished, and I think I mentioned that to you in the email. I think it's 1,550. And each one takes a minimum of 10 minutes. So you can understand it's like,
yeah, that pull your hair out for sure.
Yeah, well, it had to be done because this, you know, you put a title on like, how can I heal on a book using energetic medicine? And after the last couple of years, I just went, it's got to be done this way so that people cannot have a go on. On that note, have you any additions to the, I don't know, anything there that scientifically you can say, well, this, as far as dealing with the fascia in the cell, I mean, I did put some stuff in there, I believe, has there's some science behind that says if you do this, it will relieve this, and it will take not only the pain, but it can also assist with people dealing with disease, etc., etc. So I don't need it now. You may just go, nah, there's a whole list. It's all there.
So I personally don't, and this is the reason why I don't have any clinical research behind this. And the reason is because this is a self-care modality, right? So people have to choose, and they have to choose to breathe. They have to choose to encounter pain on their own terms. And so like I recognized a long time ago, you can't just kind of pick people off the street and say, here's a pill, take it for 30 days. Let's measure before and after. But what I do is I do all of these challenges. So I have, I mean, I'll show you a couple things, but
So you got some what are called N=1 research. Have you got? Were you aware of that? I only came across this the other day, so it sounds
oh,
really cool and and amazing. But it basically means that the number of people that you who are just reverting back to, oh, cool, look at that.
so
Yeah.
this is one of my clients. She does the thermography in New York, and this was taken 2 months before of one of her patients, 2 months before the blocking. So I have done a Zoom with her where she shared she's never seen anything so incredibly fast and amazing in regards to the movement of inflammation out of the body. So that was really cool to have this. And like, these are the kinds of things that we have more than anything else besides before and after photos. And I have a ton of those of people.
Yeah, I saw that online. I mean, these are N=1, aren't they? That's the research subject is just one. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
I'd love to, let me just, if you don't mind waiting for 1 second here,
No,
I'm going to get into my website and I'm going to go right to, you can see what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get on my blogs. And I just want to show you that this is probably like, this was my most favorite before and after thing I've ever seen. I just have to get to the right blog. I think it's like around page 8.
Okay.
5, 7. Yep, 8 should be here. No, it's probably 9 now. Keep adding the blog so it keeps moving down the chain. Winners, here we go. Winners of the head, neck, and face challenge. So this was a 21-day program, and this is what happened. This was our first place winner.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. And what's really neat is one of my other community members sent me a video on research they did from skulls that they dug up from like ancient times, before convenience, before soft things that we were chewing, when they were eating like raw meat and fibrous food. And they showed that their tongue was actually aligned where it is, where we've always been sharing. It should be. None of them had crooked teeth or cavities. They had just worn their teeth down a lot, but they also had broader faces. And I love this because they, like the person that wrote this said, they've got techniques through working the tongue to change it, but the changes are minute and really slow. So in 21 days, this is what, one woman did of just doing my program. This was our second place winner. She's actually one of my instructors. And what I love too is like, I mean, just thinking of the room for the brain, like suddenly she's got room for this whole parietal lobe and like all of the parts of the brain here that are getting compressed that aren't going to be getting proper flow because there's no space in there. Now she's created the room for that, the eyes lifting. Like, so like, this is the kind of stuff that's going to change your eyes. Part of this, which was cool, was I think it's 2 or 3 times in that 21-day program, I added in the hour hair health class that's in the membership. And the hair health class is really cool because I teach you how to pull the scalp away from the skull. And 3 years ago, Gary Sharp, who shares all of my stuff all over, he has a place, Outthinking Parkinson's. He's from the UK. So he started working with Block, had to go very slowly because he was so toxic from all the meds he had taken. But it was about a year ago that I added in the hair health. And when he started to do it, he said that was the most incredible thing he did to get rid of his neurological symptoms. In fact, this month, because it's Parkinson's Awareness Month, all of my blogs this month are me explaining Parkinson's. And then the last one is his whole testimonial. And he talks all about that. So he's changed immensely. Like he's gone from being crooked and twisted to having good posture. Like most of his symptoms are completely under control, and he'd been searching for years. So that's the really neat part about, understanding the fascia and what it can really do. And then once we get rid of those adhesions, the body takes care of itself. And then our third place winner, just again, like the whole twisting. So like I can see in you when you're sitting there that you do have more compression, the way that your posture is shifted. You're blocking this artery here. So that's going to directly affect what's going on through here.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear that. I know I've got to do something. And then when I just was going through, because I promised that I would write about it and got the blocks, couldn't actually get into it because of the timing. And now it's done. And there'll be, time to put everything together. I just had to.
But do send your photos so I can get a good
look.
look.
Do. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you'll also be excited to see the changes. And it's, again, it's really fast.
One of the things that you were talking about, the ancient people and the grinding in the teeth and everything. Have you come across Weston Price? And he did, yeah. So you and
so one of my teachers as well. She works for me in my company. She's only 20. Her mother was really involved with Weston Price, and so very stuff.
We're looking at. I did some research into linoleic acid seed oils, and also just in the process of going through. I never get time to read because it's just all the reading's done on the book at the moment. But a fabulous book called The Great Plant-Based Con, which is really fascinating. I don't know whether any of the, specifically the guys, carnivore diets seem to be amazing for them. They lose a lot of stuff as well. And I'm just wondering, because none of this is about, there's only one therapeutic way of dealing with anything, and I'm sure you're of that opinion. I am. It's taken me years because I would say, "Oh, my way is the best way." Oh, it's garbage, or trash, or whatever we want to call it. Well, you're from Canada, you call it garbage. So that basically, it's a combination of all these things, from diet to releasing the underlying stressful events, and this got really, really bad. Especially because they're just putting a 5G tower about a kilometer and a half away from where we live, when I was very unhappy about this, and I've just given up bothering now because I want to move on. And I'll just deal with the stuff that's going on inside my head.
And this is like, I totally agree that, this is a compliment to anything and everything, because no matter what other great things you're doing, when you release those adhesions, you optimize the flow of energy, of fluids, of everything. So,
great.
And so that's the nice thing. So, again, all that trapped stuff, I think you'll really find that your whole nervous system will, as much as it's there and it's an annoyance. I mean, I live in the middle of a city, and same thing. I mean, it's everywhere. You can't control that crap, and just, being on these things too. Like it's, I swore I was going to never have a computer until I realized, okay, if I want to actually have a business beyond Winnipeg, I got no choice. So, but that was only probably 11 years ago that I got my first computer, when I really realized that, I gotta figure this out, because I can feel it. And there's no question, being on this has affected my vision. But I've gotten smarter about how much I'm on that. And I try to stick to my computer more, because it's a very different thing than the phone. And then to manage, it's a management.
You need to get the block blue light glasses. The block blue light or True Dark. Dave Asprey's True Dark. It's great stuff, or True Light, or whatever they call it. All these, they're great. I couldn't have done this. My eyesight without these starts to hurt, and it corrected it. So, there's all sorts of things. I'm sure you come across it, but these are savers. And the Wi-Fi, we're plugged in, wires everywhere. We don't have Wi-Fi, which actually reduces the amount of EMF massively. It depends. Are you in an apartment or are you in a house?
I'm in an apartment.
Right. So you got it below, you got it above. One last thing is about a bit of advice. If you are in an apartment, the real key to just getting away from that is to spend the money, unfortunately, and get a tent, an EMF tent, and you need a below and above. It's like a mosquito net. And there are people that say all their ailments and all their problems have disappeared. They've done nothing else, and that sounds crazy, as having just put themselves in one of these tents for 2 months. That's all they did. 2 months, nothing else changed in the house, and that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many cool things that are coming forward now, and to counter all the stuff we're having to live through. So it's a very exciting time, actually. In
Yeah,
that
we
regard.
are definitely in an exciting time. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, look, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much, Deanna, and I'll get what I've done. Kristen, my wife, just over here, she's Canadian. She's just doing the final tweaks on the thing, and I'll send over a PDF, but then I'll get you a proper book as we
Wonderful. I look
publish
forward to
it.
that. Thank you so much.
So yeah, that should be fun. And
And I can't wait to hear your experience of the book.
yeah, that's going to be great, and I'll put that in the book as well. But I'll send it over what I've done first, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect. Thank you so
All right.
much, Richard. Have a lovely